Welcome back, everyone. I know I don't tend to normally stream on the weekends nowadays, but I actually have a bit of a leeway right now with school because most of the homework that is due, I finished all that I can do for right now. And any homework that is like due tomorrow, I have time to work on it tomorrow as well. So I thought, because of that, I thought I would just spend the rest of the night tonight streaming. And really because I just want to get through more of this game, I just kind of wanted to stream this game for tonight. The plan is that I will stream this game until I get to the end of the next part, and depending on what time it is and depending on what time it is and how I feel after doing all these voices, I'll move on to maybe another game, maybe like Pokemon Unite or something. So then it's not just Great Ace Attorney tonight. But with that being said, let's just jump into the game. Continue. Yeah. Yeah, after playing this game on Friday, I forgot how voice intensive it is, so we'll see if my voice can match up with doing tonight. But for right now, I think I should be fine. At the very least, I do want to try and get through a part. If my voice can't handle it, if my voice can't handle getting through to the next part, or I just get way too tired, I will cut it a little. I will cut it early and then maybe stream another game to give my voice a rest. But I really do want to try and trudge through and get through the next part. So, well, not trudge through. I do enjoy this game, but it definitely is voice intensive.
I have considered the defense counsel's request for a further summation examination of the jury, and I have determined that the court must uphold the defense's judicial right to this procedure. So, counsel, you will now proceed with your second summation examination. I presume the jury is ready, Mr. Foreman.
We are, my lord.
Very good. In that case, I must ask each of you now to state clearly and concisely for the court the grounds on which you find the defendant guilty of this crime.
Judicial findings. The jurors' contentions for the second time.
The accused left behind evidence at the scene, didn't he? Those 3 books of his.
If there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider. Even if the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it? Dear me, it was only a little book. Hardly life-threatening, even with a direct hit.
Look, I just want to get this over with. If I don't bring home some pay tonight, I'll be in a tiny bit of trouble.
Come to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago. It gave me the sneezes.
Yes. Considerably more tangible arguments from all members of the jury this time around, it seems. With one notable exception, of course.
My learned student friend was unable to find fault in the previous witness testimony. So the court must accept the fact that it was indeed the accused seen fleeing from the scene. And moreover, No one else was even at the scene to commit the crime.
Well, if the eyewitnesses are correct, it would seem as if the conclusion is somewhat set in stone. I fail to see how it can be argued any other way.
That means, I'm afraid, that during the summation examination, it's essential that you establish some other tangible explanation for the facts.
But how? What would even constitute a tangible explanation here? Isn't it obvious? Who stabbed the woman and how? Those two details are all you need provide. Simply give us a name and a method by which the attack was conducted. And there I was thinking this might be hard.
But Mr. Naruhodo, you have to do it. Otherwise, this really will be where the trial ends.
No pressure, then.
That's quite enough preamble. Proceed with the summation examination, please. I presume you are prepared, counsel?
Oh, yes, my lord. All right, Ryunosuke, focus your mind now. Clearly, the key to this summation examination is going to be juror number 4, the maid. Or should I say, Mrs. Garadeb.
We have a book that disappeared from the Garadeb's house on the evening of the incident. And the 4th book found in the victim's hand.
There must be a way to link the two. Yes, that's what we have to find. Using every technique I've learned in my short career so far, whatever it takes.
Don't forget to keep an eye on Mrs. Garadeb and how she reacts, even to the things other people say.
Oh yeah, you can do that, can't you? I knew you could do it with the witnesses, but I forgot that you could do it with the jury. The defense's rebuttal. Okay, the accused left behind evidence at the scene. Press. But as we now know, there were 4 books, not 3.
Well, what difference does it make?
I also know that it will make a noise when someone else makes a move, so. There's every possibility that the 4th book, in fact, belongs to the defendant's landlord.
Yes, that's the part I have a problem with.
Sorry?
Well, at the point the woman was stabbed, the landlord fellow was at home, wasn't he? Enjoying a fiery scrap with his wife or something, you said.
That's not exactly how I put it, no.
Well, anyway, the point is, the fellow and his wife were somewhere else when it happened.
I think that's what you call a strong alibi.
So it couldn't have been the landlord who did it, which only leaves the Nipponese fellow. Honestly, I can't see what all this palaver's about. It's a done deal, isn't it?
I suppose it is, since I've nothing witty left to say. Okay.
Hold it!
So, you might be willing to change your decision, you mean?
Oh my, such a delight on your face. But I'm afraid I shan't be swayed by emotion. Despite what you may think of me, I am a very modern, metropolitan, and rational woman.
Yes. That's great.
If one reads the morning papers, it's all forgotten by tea time, isn't it? So why read them in the first place? You see, modern, metropolitan, and rational thinking, wouldn't you say?
And not at all extreme.
As I see it, an overwhelmingly suspicious Japanese man has been implicated by overwhelmingly strong testimony. So despite 1 or 2 minor puzzlements, I do declare that the man is overwhelmingly guilty. Modern, metropolitan, and rational logic, wouldn't you say?
Overwhelmingly.
But us modern gals are always delighted to embrace new fads, you know. So I'd be only too happy to consider an exciting new theory if you could come up with one.
I'd be happy to do that too, if only I could.
Let's do our very best not to disappoint the modern and metropolitan young lady.
Right. I'm glad you admitted rational there.
Even if the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it?
But what about the possibility that the window was open?
What about it? I mean, there's just no way it could have been.
How can you be so sure?
The prosecutor fellow over there said it earlier, didn't he? Winters in London are no joke. You don't want to invite that sort of cold indoors. So no, that window wasn't open. Us Londoners like sitting by the fire and staying warm, see?
But you couldn't categorically state that the window wasn't open, could you? I mean, that's stating a negative. You can't necessarily prove a negative.
It just wasn't. They wouldn't have opened it.
Then what's the point in even having windows, huh?
Counsel, you will kindly refrain from childish bickering.
Oh, sorry. Somehow I need to show there's an undeniable possibility that the window was open. Because this young man isn't going to budge otherwise.
Hold it!
But the little book was on fire at the time, was it not? With flames of love, I'll have you know. There's really no such thing as loving incendiary, Baham. Well, he put it upon himself. It's playing with fire to betray a fiery love, isn't it? Well, don't you agree? Oh, well, any kind of betrayal is certainly a bad thing, yes. But I think the argument that might have arisen out of your misunderstanding, Mrs. Garadeb. Never you mind that. The point is, we were just having a jovial little dispute, nothing more. And I won't have any more of your suggestions that it was anything whatsoever to do with this crime. Right, well, we'll see about that. But what about juror number 5? He doesn't seem to be turning a hair at Mrs. Garadeb's relentless onslaughts.
It's almost as though he's used to it. What a gentle soul he is.
Hold it!
Okay.
You just want to get this over with? How can you sit there and say something like that?
A man's future is at stake here.
Well, him and me both then, like I said before.
What?
I told you already, I'm a day laborer, aren't I? If I don't bring home some Reddies with me tonight, you'll find me floating face down in the Thames tomorrow morning.
What?
You heard me. My missus isn't one to mess about, you know. She can be fierce, believe you me.
Another shining example of marital bliss, then.
A situation like this cropped up the other day. It was, well, do you know, it's funny, but I can't quite remember.
Sorry?
It was too frightening, that's the thing. I must have blocked it out.
Helpful.
I wonder if Mr. B will ever be dragged into the Thames by his scarf.
Don't even go there, Miss Susato. There must be some way to jog his memory about this. It's probably with this guy. Does that have anything to do with your decision about the defendant's culpability in this case?
Sorry, what's that? You'll have to speak up, lad.
Could you tell us more about that fire?
It was last winter. My grandchildren baked me a lovely cake on my birthday. It had 75 candles on the top, it did. What a sight to behold it was.
You put candles on a cake? Was it some kind of devil worship?
Of course not. It was an angel cake. To celebrate my birthday, obviously.
It seems that's a common custom here in Great Britain, Mr. Naruhodo.
Anyway, I must have known my puff to blow them out. Only I must have blown wrong somehow. The flames didn't go out, but candles went flying all over the room. The furniture caught and everything went up. The whole place filled with smoke.
Definitely sounds like devil worship to me. And by the sneezes, I presume you mean a cold. But how did you catch a fire cold? Blah, blah. But how did you catch a cold from a fire? How did you catch a fire from a cold?
What a fiasco it was. The grandchildren, bless them, threw water over me as they tried to put out the flames. And then, because the whole room had filled up with smoke, of course, we had to open all the windows to clear it out.
The windows.
The biting winter air rushed over me like the devil dancing on my grave, it did. I caught a terrible cold from it. It put me in a hospital for a while. I won't forget that birthday in a hurry.
I knew it was devil worship all along. But something about this old man's story is playing on my mind for some reason.
We need to demonstrate who, apart from Mr. Natsume, could have attacked the young woman on the street, as well as how he or she could have done it.
Yes, but once again, the jurors' statements are full of personal prejudice. A lot of them seem convinced they're right, even in the face of logical arguments to the contrary.
I think you're going to need to pit them against each other to force them to accept an alternative explanation.
Yes. I don't necessarily need to find contradiction between their assertions. Just a connection might do the trick. Alright, I'll see what I can do. If anything stands out, I'll go in for a strike. Ugh.
That's the spirit.
Okay. Oh. Winter house fires are dire. You have to open windows. Oh, that's okay. So he changed his thing. So pit him against him.
Objection!
These two juror statements clearly contradict one another.
They do? How exactly, counsel?
Don't point at me again. I told you it wasn't me.
What's that you say? Speak up, lad, speak up.
Juror number 3, do you see?
Oh, me? See what, sir?
Did you hear juror number 6's account of his birthday celebrations last year? It seems, despite being a Londoner, he once opened his windows in the middle of winter.
Well, yes, of course, because it was an emergency. I mean, obviously, if the room was filled with smoke from a fire, then you'd be mad not to open the...
Oh! Exactly. On the day in question, at the time of the incident, there was a fire in the Garadeb household, and Mr. Garadeb had the following to say about it. The whole place filled with smoke.
Oh, my hat!
Excuse me.
Juror number 4, do you have something to say about that?
Mrs. Garadeb!
Oh, dearie me! What is the meaning of this? How dare you imply that I'm hiding who I really am? It's imperative that you confirm something for the court. So please, it's time to drop the pretense now. What is it? When the fire started in your house that day, did you or your husband open the window? What? I beg your pardon? What are you insinuating? The room would have been thick with smoke after the carpet and bookcase caught fire as they did. I might be a little loud. That might be good. Again, apologies if I'm breaking people's ears. I don't mean to. Oh, I also just realized stream is kind of dropping right now. Looks like it fixed itself. Yeah, it looks like it's gonna drop every so often, but it's kind of just how the stream probably will be, so I guess no worries about that. In a situation like that, it's inconceivable that you wouldn't have opened the window. And what if we did? Oh, all right then. Yes, you're right. My husband was frantically trying to open the window, which can't have been easy since I continued to give him a justly deserved book battering.
Even though your house was on fire?
Oh, you never stop throwing until the anger subsides. It would be terribly bad for the nerves to do otherwise.
Of course. I should have realized.
That's a significant step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. You've managed to establish that the window was open. We simply must have that added to Mrs. Garrett's formal statement.
Oh, why is the stream really crashing now? Come on, stream, don't do this to me. Okay, I'll keep an eye on that. Really don't want to have to cut stream if it's not streaming right, but okay.
Now you mention it, yes, the window was open at the time. I'd clean forgotten, but it's true.
Oh, why do you keep dropping? Come on, stream.
Objection!
Nope. Okay.
Hold it!
I'm sorry, but as foreman of the jury, I have to object. That's complete nonsense.
What?
I'm a banker, don't forget, an educated man, and there's no contradiction as far as I can see.
Quite so, Mr. Foreman. I will not permit a whimsical attack against the good members of the jury council.
There was nothing whimsical about it.
It's very important to listen carefully to every juror, Mr. Naruhodo. Then you can decide whether contradictions really are, if there are any. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
I thought the window could have been open and then her confirming that it was open what was the point, but oh, why is stream crashing so much? Are you really not going to allow me to stream tonight? Maybe I need to restart the computer. Okay.
Hold it!
I'll press this again.
The fourth book found at the scene of the crime shows very obvious signs of fire damage. And the title of the book is The Lion's Pride. The same title, in fact, as the book that Mr. Garrett had told us he had been reading.
Well, I really couldn't say.
On the day in question, did you or did you not throw at your husband the copy of The Lion's Pride that he had been reading?
I did. It was the first thing I could lay my hands on, so I hurled it straight at him. And now you come to mention it, yes. He was rather enjoying reading it, you're right.
Why did you not reveal this information to the court from the outset?
Because I couldn't, you insolent little man, I didn't remember. At times like that, you pick up and throw whatever you can lay your hands on as well, you know.
Come on, computer, don't mess up on me, please. I might I might just end this stream and then restart my computer if it continues dropping like this. Or maybe I'll even throw on something else.
I really don't. I barely noticed I was doing a book, much less the title of it.
Excuse me.
What is it, juror number 5?
You know something? I remember what it was. That memory I'd blocked out.
Ah,
It was listening to what this granny was saying. Brought it all flooding back.
who are you calling a granny, you cheeky devil? I'm Mrs. Garrett the maid, I'll have you know. The man doesn't even flinch. Please tell me that's not because he's so used to being hit all the time.
It was about 2 weeks ago now. I just got back home after work, like. I put my hand in my pocket for the wages I just earned that day, and I nearly died. There was a hole. Every last penny had dropped out.
Oh dear, what a disaster.
You haven't heard the half of it, boy.
Oh?
The wife was cutting up some chicken at the time. I could hardly get the words out, but I told her straight. I've lost a day's wages, love. Next thing I knew, the blade was whistling past my ear. Stuck into the wall next to me, it did. About an inch deep.
No words, just terror.
I could smell it then, you know. That god-awful stench of the Thames. I was sure I was going to end up face down in the muddy banks that night, I can tell you. Now, that's a real disaster, isn't it?
I'll never use the word lightly again.
Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this. When women lose their rag, they'll throw anything at you. Knives, hatchets, hammers, you name it.
Mr. Naruhodo, you mustn't think that all women are so short-tempered and unrefined. No, I wasn't thinking that. Throwing household objects at people is, well, it's so uncivilized. At least with attack with honor, using a bow or the like. What? Attack? Who are you going to attack? Never mind. Anyway, this man's words could be rather significant, I think. Alright, we'll come back to the bow and arrow thing later, if I dare.
Okay, it doesn't seem like stream is crashing again now, so.
A woman in a rage will hurl almost anything at you. The kitchen knife really brought that home to me.
I'm assuming that's going to be this. And this.
Objection.
Yep.
Those two statements clearly have a deeply significant connection.
Good grief! You mean they don't contradict each other? Explain, counsel, at once.
Juror number 2, do you think perhaps that this could be one such novel alternative? Oh my, whatever do you mean? An alternative explanation as to how the victim was stabbed in the back.
What are you talking about?
We've demonstrated that the 4th book, The Lion's Pride, that was found at the scene of the crime, originated in Mr. Garrett's room on the top floor of his house. Therefore, it's equally possible that some other object besides the book could have found its way from the Garrett household to the street below.
Eh? What's that now? What's that now?
After all, Mrs. Garrett could have thrown any number of different objects at her husband. Isn't that right, juror number 4? What are you insinuating now, you little beanpole? I'm beginning to think that ever since the true origins of this book came to light. Perhaps she's had a feeling this might be what happened.
Now you listen here, you Eastern Galaw. As the foreman of this jury, I demand a straight answer. You give us this yarn about some other object making its way out of the house. But what? What was it?
I'm really taking a big gamble here. That was a bold accusation to make, but I haven't any real evidence to back it up. But I'm certain that at the very least this warrants further investigation. Alright, Mr. Foreman, I'll try to explain the defense's theory. The other object that found its way from the Garrett household to the scene of the crime was the jackknife.
Take that!
Juror number 4, Mrs. Garadeb. What now?
Oh, that peaked the mic. I am so sorry.
I must apologize in advance for this. But I need you to confirm something else for the court. This knife. Have you ever seen this knife before?
Oh! Good Lord, Counsel! What on earth are you doing? That's the weapon that was lodged into the victim's back, man!
My lord, remember that when the victim was attacked, Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb were in the throes of an argument. And to be fair, she wasn't killed. So it very well could have been thrown and... yeah. Mrs. Garadeb was hurling anything she could at her husband, who'd been backed up against the window. A window that had been opened to clear the smoke, and through which a book sailed to land at the crime scene.
You can't seriously believe that! The book was found in the victim's grasp!
Are you saying that it flew out of the window and across the street to land neatly in her hand?
Huh? Even my missus hasn't got a name like that!
Yes, I admit, there are many details we don't yet understand. But that's the point. That's precisely why. We must not allow this trial to end. Not right now.
Oh my!
Ugh!
Mrs. Garadeb, your answer, please. Have you seen this knife before or not? Oh, oh!
And she passes out.
My lord.
Oh,
I wish to change my decision. I'm a woman of my word after all.
Thank you, madam.
Yes, I agree. I certainly didn't see this coming, but I just don't think it would be right for this trial to come to an end with so many unanswered questions.
Mr. Foreman.
I'd have to agree. Not that I think the granny did it, mind.
Yes, you know what? I'm not quite happy about this at the moment either.
All together now, ladies and gents.
and we are back to balance.
We did it!
Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo.
So, as a result of the defense's summation examination, a number of jurors' leanings have changed. 2 jurors call guilty against 4 now calling innocent. Accordingly, the opinion of this court is divided, and this trial will continue. Now then, Lord Van Zeeks, how does the prosecution wish to proceed?
I'm just gonna drink my wine and then crush it in my hand. This trial is rapidly descending into a farce. Like a corked wine, the first few sips are bitter enough. Oh no, I'll throw it into the fire. But what follows is so repugnant, it's good for nothing save the gutter.
If I may, Lord Van Zieks, the defense has just put forward a credible alternative explanation for what happened.
Credible? Is that your considered opinion, Mr. Foreman? The defense's argument is a joke to which I barely know how to respond. But let me start by insisting that you must all familiarize yourselves better with the relative positions of those places being discussed.
What do you mean by that? What's this angle this time? It's across the street. No amount of force thrown throwing a knife will go into someone's back as big as that. From across the street. The book, maybe, but the knife, no. That's his point.
It should already be more than apparent that between the crime scene and the Garrett household runs a rather wide street, Briarwood. Which means that the distance from the Garrett's house to the scene is some, yes, 15 yards.
Let me see, 15 yards? That's around 14 meters.
14 meters? Oh, that's a little farther than I imagined. And as you ladies and gentlemen of the jury rightly noted as having portentous significance, the fourth book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, the smoldering book, wantonly hurled by the lady of the house, traveled some 15 yards to land on the opposite side of the road, neatly between the collapsed victim's fingers and thumb. Is that your final conclusion, my learned and deluded friend? And did the jackknife follow a near identical trajectory to plunge into the middle of the victim's back? This fantasy is somewhat stretching the notion of having a bad day for the victim, I think. Even those pathetic serialized detective stories have more believable plots.
There's nothing I can say to that.
That prosecutor loves the sound of his own voice.
Miss Susato.
Serialized detective stories are pathetic, are they? How dare he?
Maybe let's pick our battles here?
My lord, might I be allowed to speak?
As judicial assistant, you may speak for the defense, yes. Go ahead.
The prosecution may consider the idea fantasy, but what the defense has postulated was believable enough to persuade the jury to change its leaning. And as such, the court has a duty to explore this alternative explanation as thoroughly as possible. To that end, juror number 4, Mrs. Joanne Giradeb, must be called to testify and submit to cross-examination.
Saints alive! A cross-examination of a juror?
Oh God, please, I don't want to do her voice more.
Order! 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 Well, this is highly irregular. It is unprecedented for a member of the jury to be summoned to the witness stand.
Objection!
Ooh, I like that animation. And unnecessary.
Lord Van Zieks.
There are already witnesses in the stand whose testimony the defense may further cross-examine. If my learned friend's farcical theory has any truth in it, then both a burning book and a jackknife must have flown through the sky before this couple's eyes. And we must assume they would be able to testify accordingly.
What say you, witnesses?
Yes, sir. Constable Royally Beat reporting for duty, sir.
Well, Good morning, officer.
Sorry for dozing on until now, sir. I haven't slept for a month on account of a villain who's appeared on my beat, sir.
Oh, they are so heroic, these London bobbies.
Patricia, my darling, I've been neglecting you, but no more. Oh, Raleigh, my hero. You make me swoon.
Very well. I hereby reject the defense's request
Oh.
and order the witnesses in the stand to testify again. State forthwith before the court any details pertaining to the defense's alternative explanation of events.
Yes, sir. I'm really picking the mic, sir.
Constable Beats report.
This case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrett. Believe me, a London Bobby is good for his word. You see, sir.
I keep peeking the mic. I'm gonna turn myself down a bit for this guy.
You see, sir. The windows on the top floor of the Garrett house are top-hinged casements. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out the window, we would have seen it. I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my trusty Raleigh was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir.
Well, this is quite startling. Top-hinged casement windows.
That detail was not in the police report, Constable.
Ah, yes. Sorry about that. I must have been a little drowsy.
You cannot excuse your sins with drowsiness every time, Constable.
No, sir.
Sorry, but what exactly is a top-hinged casement window? And you cannot excuse your ignorance with such trite remarks, my learned friend. Of course, sorry.
I found it, Mr. Naruhodo. Cast your mind back to the windows in Mr. and Mrs. Scaradeb's room.
All right, I'll try.
So the window opens in order to allow air to circulate inside the house. But as it's a top-hinged casement window, it swings open along the upper edge, you see.
I'm glad you've rectified your ignorance. A casement window's most prominent feature is its stay, a metal bar which prevents the window from being opened beyond a certain amount. It prevents it opening? This is all news to me.
Absolutely correct, sir. In other words, if a book or knife were to have been thrown through the open window, it would have clattered against the pane and fallen straight down to the pavement below.
So what had happened, and I'm already guessing this, is that she threw the book hit the window, fell straight down as Ms. Green was passing by. She decided to reach down to look at the book, and as she was leaning down and grabbed the book, the knife hit the window, fell straight down and into her back. Oh, but then that brings up the whole problem of how could they get her across the street? Considering one of them was in a wheelchair and can't move because of his wounds from the war. Although I guess the maid could have well, no, because then you would have been able to see a drag mark. That part is not explained yet, but I think I've got everything else there. No! You see the problem then? Good. Your education in Windows is complete. There was never any possibility of either the book or the knife traveling 15 yards over the road. That is, unless the window pane had been shattered, something we've discounted already.
That can't be! Did you see that, Rowley? That young Japanese man just collapsed in agony. Oh yes, my darling, I saw it. I saw how he crumbled before me. Oh, Rowley, you're so strong.
How was this happening? I haven't even started the cross-examination yet, and already my argument's been destroyed.
Counselor, if you could drag yourself upright again, the court awaits your cross-examination.
My lord. Oh good, another desperate situation. Cross-examination.
Hold it!
There really is no reason to press this, but
How can you say that for certain?
A very good question, sir. And the answer is this. It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it as a reminder to all us policemen of our sworn duty.
He showed us that before, didn't he? Did he? I can't say I remember.
To patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man. It's what the job's all about. And that is why I can stand here today beside my long-suffering wife and tell you what Bobby's good for his word. While rubbing my tired eyes admittedly, Sah! Oh, Valley, you're so manly. Of course I am, my darling Patricia. Oh, Pat. Oh, Valley.
No, none of this is what I meant. I meant, how can you say for certain that this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb?
Ah, I see, sir. You should have said so earlier, sir.
Yes, well, so could you answer the question? That was a waste of time then.
Absolutely, sir. I will answer it to the fullest of my abilities, sir.
I keep peeking the mic when I do his sigh.
I can't help it. I really like doing his voice.
There's a surprising reason why Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb's domestic dispute can't be related to this case. But before I get into that, sir, just one thing.
Yes?
I'd very much like you and all your countrymen to understand the great British institution of Scotland Yard. So I hope you'll take back some tales of us London Bobbies and how we uphold our guiding principles.
I wasn't planning on going back just yet. I've only just arrived here.
So to that end, sir, I'd be happy to lend you my warrant card for your perusal. But I must warn you, you won't be able to get through it without shedding a few tears.
By the way, hi Rachel. Thank you, I'll try. Constable Beat's warrant card has been entered into the Oh, I guess I did need to press that, huh? A small folding wallet that identifies London Bobbies and contains the rules of conduct which they must adhere.
Okay, I'll go into the court record for that right now.
You see, sir, the windows on the top floor of the Garadeb house are top-hinged casements. Let me read this first.
Examine. Item number 1, principles of policing. Item number 1, a policeman will strive to preserve the peace within his allotted beat. Item number 2, a patrolling officer is expected to walk 20 miles around his beat every day for the furtherance of community relations. Metropolitan Police Regulations. Item number 1, any crimes fall under the jurisdiction of the beat in which they are discovered. Item number 2, when a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. I feel like something in this one right here. I feel like item number 2 is going to be pretty important. Because I don't think he was around to investigate. Okay. Okay.
Hold it!
Press. by which you mean they don't open fully. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. They're just there to allow a bit of air through the house, you see. So they're restricted as to how much they open.
And therefore, anything thrown out of the window from inside the room would simply strike the pane and fall to the street directly below. For clarity, allow me to mark the map. Here is the location where objects would have fallen.
Yes, directly opposite the scene of the crime, on the other side of the rather wide road.
Would have been so hard for someone to mention this top hinge casement thing before? Well, I have another question for you, Constable.
And what would that be, sir?
How do you even know? Why would you have any idea what sort of windows Mr. and Mrs. Garrett house is furnished with?
Ah, well, sir, that's very simple. You see, I helped with the investigation yesterday.
Oh, here we go.
Excuse me.
Excuse me. Do you have something to add, Mrs. Beat?
Sorry?
You look, well, delighted. Is there some particular reason for that?
Oh, I was just remembering, that's all. We really were so lucky.
Lucky? What do you mean?
Well, of course I feel terrible for the poor woman who was attacked. Don't misunderstand me, please.
Wait, get some water.
Okay.
But we were just so lucky it didn't happen to Raleigh's beat. It was so close, you see.
Oh, I hadn't realized.
Oh yes, that street, Briarwood. That's the boundary between Raleigh's beat and the next one. Isn't that right, my love?
Constable Beat.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's the reason I was helping out with interviewing the occupants of the Garrett household yesterday. Their house is on my beat, you see. Sir.
That really was cutting it close then.
Constable, I wonder if you could clarify something. If the Garrett household is on your beat, does that mean that the pavement next to it is as well?
Outside Mr. Garrett's house? Yes, ma'am. The pavement on that side of the road is part of my beat.
I see. I was unaware of that.
Just think, if the woman had been attacked just on the other side of Briar Road, we would never have been able to go for that meal to celebrate our wedding anniversary. But that's life of a Bobby after all.
Extraordinary people are Bobbies, tirelessly working for the benefit of all Londoners.
Do you know what I think? I think it was the good Lord's way of rewarding my Aunt Raleigh for all his hard work. Don't you think so, my darling?
That must be it, Pat, my love. That must be it.
I think perhaps we should make sure we have that information officially on record.
Leave it to me, Mr. Naruhodo. I'll take care of it immediately.
Case files information has been updated in the court record. The pavement where the victim was found lies just outside Constable Beat's beat, the border of which runs down the middle of Briar Road. I wonder why.
And now it's my turn, I think. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, we would have seen it.
Location, pavement of Briar Road, east side.
pavement where the victim was found lies just outside Constable Beat's beat, the border of which runs down the middle of Briar Road. Any crimes fall under the jurisdiction of the beat in which they are discovered. When a crime is discovered on its beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. And he was the reporting officer. So, is the point that's trying to be made right now is that Green was found on the other side? And so he could report it and do everything else with it? No, because they're saying that he runs the west side of the pavement. Was found. The pavement where the victim was found lies just outside Constable Beat's beat. So yeah, I guess what they're saying is that she was found on the west side, which is where but I think that's the point that's being made here, is that in order for him to be the reporting officer and all that, and like the case, it had to be on his beat, which would be on the side where the window is. I think that's the point that's trying to be made here in the game. Okay, I'm just gonna continue pressing and continue from here. Hold it!
But according to my notes here, the sun had gone down already and it was dark.
Oh, but Raleigh and I were strolling along, gazing at the night sky and looking for our lucky star.
Sorry?
The star that will guide us to eternal happiness.
Can't it guide you to answer the question?
If a flaming book had cut across the sky in front of us, it would have lit up like a shooting star.
And if I had seen the shooting star, I would have made a wish upon it. Let Raleigh be an investigator, I would have said. 3 times at least.
Of course, well, with the smog and everything, we couldn't actually see any stars.
In short, are you trying to say that neither a book nor a knife crossed the sky before you?
Yes, sir. That is correct, sir. As sure as the night sky in London is starless, sir.
It certainly seems like they're telling the truth.
And then we saw the poor woman fall to the ground, so we ran straight over to help her.
Hold it! Okay. But I guess that, and then again, they are saying that she did go get another officer, so so he would be the reporting officer, but the officer that it would help in the investigation would be the other officer for the beat. So I guess they're not necessarily lying on that part. Yes, you said that you went to a nearby police box to fetch another officer, is that right?
That's right, yes. If it had been on Raleigh's beat, I would have known exactly where I was going, of course.
Don't feel bad, my love. You can't be expected to know the location of every police box and every beat.
So Raleigh told me the way. Only I sort of got a little lost on the way.
Patricia, my darling, that's why I love you. Your terrible sense of direction is bewitching to me.
Oh, jeez. I love the humor in these games.
Oh, Pat.
Oh, Raleigh.
Oh, please!
So, I was supposed I was gone for about 15 minutes. But like I said, my Raleigh was at the scene the whole time, making sure nothing was disturbed.
I was off duty at the time, of course, but a true Bobby is never really off duty. Sa!
I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir.
Hold
it!
Nothing to report?
That's correct, sir. I had my eyes wide open the entire time. Never looked away for a second. No one else approached the scene, and nothing was removed from it. I can swear to that on the yard's honor, sir.
Really? That seems a little strange.
Beg your pardon, sir? Strange, sir. Seems altogether irregular to me.
This burnt copy of the line's pride was originally in the Garrett household. So the question remains, how did it find its way into the hands of the victim? Can you shed any light on that, seeing as you were at the scene of the crime the entire time?
Aha! Could it be a different copy, sir? One that just happened to be burnt as well.
Even if that were possible, why would the victim have been gripping a book like that in her hand? As we can see from this photographic print, she had a bag over her shoulder. So she could have been carrying it in the bag.
Well, sir, that book was in the lady's hand from the moment we arrived at the scene.
Is that so? There's something about this statement that's not sitting right with me. The two mysteries of how that knife ended up in her back and how that book ended up in her hand. There must be some common thread between them. Oh. I guess we did have to press everything and not present anything yet.
Can I ask you something? Please, Mr. Lawyer, sir.
Oh, yes, of course. What is it?
You're doubting us, aren't you? I can tell.
What? I wasn't really, what's she doing?
Please, just because I'm a woman, it doesn't make my testimony any less valuable. You might just see me as the wife of a policeman, but I'm a woman of my word, I am.
Her voice is, I'm struggling to maintain her voice now. By the way, Rachel, after I finish this part, I might switch to another game, maybe like Pokemon Unite or something. If you have a thought of a game that I can switch to, let me know. Because I do not think, while I would like to do more than just one part every time I stream, with how much I'm doing voices and all that, I don't really think my throat can survive 2 parts. So we'll see, but I'm more than likely going to switch to another game. So let me know if there's any games you would like to see me play.
I really don't remember ever suggesting that I doubted you.
No excuses. I don't want to hear it. My voice will be heard. My lord, you'll let me speak, won't you?
Yes, Mrs. Beat. I will allow you to supply your testimony if you so desire. Sometimes the path of least resistance is the sage one.
That was a very loud mutter.
I heard that. That Japanese man thinks a policeman wife's word counts for nothing, does he?
I need to turn my light on. Come on, light. Come on. Where are you?
Oh, there we go. Oh, that was my back. Oh, that's my back. That's my back.
Well, watch out, sir. I might let you get away with something like that, but my Raleigh won't.
Duly noted, Mrs. B. Please, I humbly ask you to continue.
What could she possibly be about to say, I wonder? I know what I saw. My eyes never let me down. My sense of direction is a little off sometimes, though.
So is this to the point of he was so asleep he couldn't remember and she... Because wasn't she the one that said which side it was? I think so. if that's the point that they're making right now, then I feel like they're going off the path of she couldn't remember what east and west was, so she said which side it happened on.
Hold it!
Okay.
Mrs. Beat, nobody's questioning what you've told us.
I saw it, I did. That evening I saw it clearly. That little Eastern man with the whiskers and the funny curved back, slinking away from the scene. And I know what I didn't see as well. I didn't see any flaming books or knives flying from through the sky.
All very clear. You also mentioned something about having a poor sense of direction?
Oh, yes, well, that's a little embarrassing, really. I'm always ending up at the wrong place when I made arrangements to meet Molly. He gets ever so cross.
Excuse me.
Constable Beat, is there a problem?
No, sir. No problem, sir.
Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind, perhaps?
Oh, well, in a way, sir. Yes, sir. I was just remembering that the same thing happened that evening is all.
You mean Mrs. Beat lost her way? On the night of the incident?
Well, you see, I sent her off to find a police box in the next beat over from mine. But she was gone a fair bit longer than what I was expecting. I thought she'd be back inside 10 minutes, but my darling was gone a good 15.
Oh, golly, you're such a tease. But the reason I was so long is because of the bouquet, silly.
The bouquet?
Sorry, what bouquet are you talking about?
Oh, it was a present for our wedding anniversary. Rowley's so romantic. He saved up for it with farthings and hot pennies he found in the gutter while doing his rounds.
Yes, how romantic.
I'd forgotten all about it until just now. Had you, my darling?
Oh, yes. But that was just between us. No talking about it to anyone else, darling. You have to promise.
Really? Oh.
What was that all about? Constable Beat looked very obviously troubled during that exchange.
I'm afraid I can't offer any useful insight, Mr. Naruhodo. But I'm quite sure one thing. You'd have to ask Mrs. Beat about the bouquet.
Mrs. Beat, this bouquet you just mentioned, I'd like you to add details about it to your testimony, please.
Oh, really? Yes, I'd love to.
He's starting to see a problem. Or he caught on.
What happened was, I dropped my bouquet and ended up losing my way for a while.
Wait, why did you have your bouquet? When you say bouquet, do you mean like the flowers?
Hold on, I'm looking this up real quick to see if there's another meaning for bouquet. What? Oh, I must have accidentally hit something else. Oh, why did I open my... Oh, no, never mind. A bouquet of wine, bouquet garni, bundle of herbs, cookie bouquet, candy bouquet. In mathematics, a space constructed with the wedge sum, for example, the bouquet of circles. Kitchen bouquet, spiritual bouquet. Fabergé egg, but that's bouquet of Lily's clock. But so was she carrying around her wedding flowers from a year ago? Because they have been married for a year, right? Oh, I can't see it right now. Oh well, I'll press it. You mean you dropped a bouquet at the scene of the crime?
Yes, that's right. Oh, I was so upset. When we ran over and saw it was a woman with a knife in her back, I was so shocked I dropped the bouquet Rolly gave me. It was in a dark spot where the streetlights weren't casting any light, so I didn't notice at first.
And then you went to the police box to report it to the policeman whose beat it was on?
Yes, and I came back to the scene together with the other constable, you see. That's when I spotted my bouquet again. But the funny thing was, when I went to pick it up, it was nowhere near the victim's body at all.
In case you need reminding, Mrs. Beat, the victim is not deceased. Here's the point. Yep, this is the point. They were on his beat. She was on the side with Mr. and Mrs. Garrett's window. Described as I had described it earlier, where she bent down to pick up the book. The knife fell down and stabbed her in the back. Mr. and Mrs. Beat were coming down his beat. Found her. He sent her off to get the police box. And then I'm assuming, I don't know why he would, maybe because he didn't want to have to report it or anything because he was so tired. He moved her body over to the other side of the road where it would have to be the other constable's job to do the investigation and all that. And because she's bad at directions, she wouldn't know east and west. And this is the point being made, is that she found the... Next they're going to say, she found the bouquet in the spot where the window is. And that'll be the point that we bring up.
I was all flustered for a moment before I heard her voice calling me from the other side of the road.
Your husband, presumably.
That's right. Silly me. I'd gone over to the wrong side of the street. Although, I'm going to blame the bouquet this time. I can't think how it got there. I really can't.
So the bouquet somehow moved from one side of Briar Road to the opposite. Ask her where the bouquet was.
Curious indeed.
Isn't it? But the worst of it is, I forgot to pick the bouquet up again when we left the scene. That beautiful rose Riley bought me, but that changed from the gutter he spent so long collecting.
By bouquet, do you perhaps mean this sorry solitary rose?
Oh, yes, that's it. That's the bouquet Riley bought me for her in.
Oh, bouquet Rolly bought for me for our anniversary. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. I thought she was just carrying around the bouquet that they had at their wedding.
That's the bouquet Riley bought me for our anniversary, with old bits of change he found in the gutter.
Maybe just call it a rose?
Tell us, Lord Van Zeeks, where did you come by the flower?
According to the report by the police officer in charge of the crime scene investigation, it was found on the edge of the pavement in front of the Garredev household. There it is. In front of the Garredev's house? Although it wasn't noticed until the morning, as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. It was believed to be of no relevance to the case, since it was found on the opposite side of the thoroughfare.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Could I have it back now, please?
No, I think for good measure, this rose should be added to the court record as evidence.
Oh.
Anniversary bouquet has been entered into the court record. A present for Patricia Beat from her husband Raleigh. The shock of seeing the stab victim caused Mrs. Beat to drop the rose where she stood. Which is the point.
But it's a symbol of our love. I want it back after the trial. Do you hear me? I want it back.
Good grief! Rest assured that I shall do my very best not to forget, Mrs. Beat.
Okay, so I guess it's the last part that I... Nothing strange to report from that front side.
Objection!
Anniversary bouquet. Why was it on the other side of the road where she dropped it when she found the body? Or the woman. She's not dead yet.
You claim, Constable Beat, there was nothing to report in the 15 or so minutes you were guarding the scene. But that cannot be.
I'm so sleepy.
What do you mean to say?
In your testimony just now, Mrs. Beat, you explained to the court that when you arrived back at the scene of the crime with the policeman assigned to that beat, the bouquet you had dropped at the victim's side was no longer anywhere nearby.
Objection! Objection!
Yes, on the opposite side of Briar Road to where the victim was attacked. But considering the size of that meager bouquet, if a single sorry bloom can be so described, no doubt it was blown in the wind across the street, back into the gutter where it belongs.
Meager?
Objection!
But if that were the case, why did Constable Beat not testify to the fact?
He just said nothing strange to report.
No one else approached the scene, and nothing was removed from it.
Oh, that too.
Constable Beat swore to that on Scotland Yard's honor. But the bouquet belonged to me. It has nothing to do with the case. That's why Raleigh didn't mention it, I'm sure.
No, because sadly it's not only your bouquet we're talking about here. More than one thing in this case is mysteriously the wrong way around. What are you talking about? Think about it. Besides Mrs. Beat's bouquet, there's Mr. Garrett's book. Mr. Garrett's copy of The Lion's Pride, which was thrown out of the window by his wife,
Should have been on that side, but it was found in her clutches on the right side.
would have struck the pane on the casement window and landed here, on the west side of the street. And yet, it was actually found here, on the opposite side of the road, in the victim's hand. Meanwhile, according to the testimony we've heard, Mrs. Beat's bouquet was supposedly dropped there, but it was found on the other side. Should have been dropped here at the scene of the crime on the east side of the street. But in fact, it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road, in front of Mr. and Mrs. Garrett's house. There's no logical explanation for those things, unless somebody deliberately moved them.
What are you trying to say? The way you're talking, it sounds like you think my Raleigh's done something wrong.
Don't you listen to a word that scrawny lawyer says? Whittering on about books and bouquets. Why should we care? It's nitpicking, that's what it is. Oh good. Mrs. Garrett's come around. You might call it nitpicking, Mrs. Garrett, but deliberately meddling with the scene of a crime is a criminal offense. It's called,
Tampering, Mr. Naruhodo.
But the person responsible for this tampering cannot admit to it, for a very subtle but compelling reason.
Objection!
Tampering? You've barely heard the term before. Tell us, my learned friend, who would possibly have had cause to carry out such an elaborate deception? Yes, there is someone who tampered with the scene of the crime that evening. All the evidence and all the testimony points to that one particular person.
It's Raleigh, unfortunately.
Come on, sir. Why would you do that?
Counsel, I must demand that you substantiate this conjecture. Who are you saying is responsible for tampering with the scene of the crime?
Raleigh beats.
Take
A
that!
Raleigh beat. Obviously, there's only one person it could have been. Constable Royley Beats, it was you.
What? A policeman? A member of Scotland Yard?
What nonsense! Why would my Raleigh do something like that? There's no one straighter than my husband.
Oh, out of context, that sentence is so funny.
No, Bobby works more tirelessly for the people of London.
Mrs. Beat, you said in your testimony that your husband asked you to go to a nearby police box to fetch the officer on duty. The 15 minutes that you were absent from the scene is the only opportunity anyone had to tamper with it.
You're making it up. It's all nonsense. It's all lies. What about that Japanese man with the whiskers? I bet it was him. He did it.
He was gone by your testimony. If that was true, Constable Beat would have seen him do it. That too.
Oh. And forgive me for pointing it out, but when you dropped your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, it was after the defendant had fled the scene.
There it is.
Ah, well.
Objection!
First you make accusations about the landlord and his wife, and now you incriminate a policeman as well. But your accusations lack one very important thing. You claim the crime scene was tampered with. But there was only one reason why anyone would commit such a reckless crime: to hide something.
That's right. He's right. But my husband and I just happened to be there, that's all. So why would he have anything to hide? It doesn't make sense.
You've offered no motive for this alleged tampering. And until you do, your accusations are nothing but empty threats. It's in the book. He would have to investigate it because it would be on his beat. So he put it on the other side so he wouldn't have to investigate it because he's really tired. Constable Beat had a very good reason for wanting to tamper with the scene of the crime. That's the key to this entire affair.
Mr. Naruhodo, have you managed to solve this mystery?
Counselor, you have made a very serious accusation against a London police officer. If you are mistaken, I'm sure I need not point out that your reputation as a lawyer will be irrevocably
That is the word.
irrevocably damaged. With that stark warning in mind, you will now explain to the court the motive for this alleged tampering.
Yes, my lord. And I'm going to present the book. Constable Beat's motive for tampering with the crime scene was to hide where the victim fell. Where the victim fell to the ground. That is what this Bobby had to cover up at all costs. What?
Where the victim fell? You mean where she was attacked? What are you talking about? We told you at the very start, didn't we? On the pavement of Briar Road. We saw it happen, remember? It was right here, as if anyone didn't already know.
That's certainly what everyone has been led to believe. But in fact, that isn't where the victim was stabbed at all.
What? What?
Oh, I cannot do screams like that, especially with characters' voices like her. Oh, please don't continue dropping. Computer, please. Please fix yourself. Okay, thank you.
stay like that, please. Go.
I'm beginning to wonder where this tumultuous trial will end, Counsel.
If that's your assertion, then the court is dying to know, my Nipponese friend. Where are you proposing that the crime actually took place that evening? On this side. Where the rose was found.
Take that!
But that's...
On the opposite side of the road?
I don't understand.
Ah, he's not even sleeping or anything. He's paying attention now.
On the evening in question, Mr. Garrett's book fell directly down from the open window above, and your bouquet, Mrs. B, never moved at all. What did move was the scene of the crime itself.
Good gracious!
Objection!
Perhaps you haven't been listening to the ample testimony the court has heard. But these witnesses both saw the moment the attack took place.
That's right! I saw it with my own eyes!
It was 5 o'clock in the evening and already dark. There was the typical London fog on the ground. Let me get some water before this continues. I'm surprised I've already been streaming for an hour and a half. It has not felt like that.
When you saw the incident unfold and ran to the victim's aid.
That was actually on the west side of Briar Road.
No, that's not true! It can't have been!
Constable Beat then arranged for you to be absent for a while by sending you for help. And during the 15 minutes you were away, he transplanted the crime scene. He moved all the things shown in this print, the victim herself, the 4 books, he moved everything in fact, to the pavement on the east side of Briar Road.
Extraordinary!
But the constable overlooked one thing.
What? What did he overlook?
The bouquet, I presume.
Exactly. The prosecution told the court just a few minutes ago about the discovery of the rose bouquet. Lord Van Zeek said it wasn't noticed until the morning as it lay where the street lamps cast no light.
Yes, it couldn't be seen in the dark, obviously.
Which is why it was only the bouquet that was found in its original position on the pavement on the west side of Briar Road. I'm sorry, Patricia. And here's the thing. Here's the thing going into this. Raleigh only did it so he wouldn't have to work harder. So I get that he messed with the crime scene and that is a crime. But I do understand what he's doing. We're not and that is the defense's theory about what really happened that evening. How do you respond? Constable Royally Beat? Yeah. Because I know that he isn't the murderer. It was all an accident. And the reason it's all an accident, and we know it's all an accident, is because she's not dead. If it was an actual murder, she would be dead.
Well, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to nod off again, but I haven't slept properly in a month. Did I miss anything important?
Oh, Raleigh. It isn't true, is it? What the lawyer said is all lies, isn't it? I know it is, because you're the most upstanding, righteous man I know.
I had a dream. A terrible dream. All the things I did that night. Everything come out. Everything exposed. Only, it seems, it wasn't a dream at all.
Good golly! Order! 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 What on earth is the meaning of all this?
Oh, Raleigh, why? Why would you do something like this? Moving a corpse is a criminal offense, isn't it?
It's not a corpse. Wishing the victim dead should be one too.
Constable, explain yourself. Why would you do this? As a respected member of Scotland Yard, your duty is to protect the good people of London town.
I can't say, sir.
What?
I really am ever so sorry about all this. For damaging the Yard's reputation, for everything.
I have a possible explanation for why, on that particular evening, Constable Beat felt compelled to move the scene of the crime. I can think of one reason. What? How could you possibly know? You, a foreigner, presuming to understand the mind of a Scotland Yard policeman.
And yet, Lord Van Zieks, it is this foreigner who has uncovered the startling truth of the matter thus far.
Ha ha ha!
I believe it would be beneficial to the court to hear this extraordinary young lawyer's theory. Counsel for the defense, if you please.
Yes, my lord.
Now then, I think you had better show us some evidence.
At once, my lord. England, Japan. It makes no difference where you come from. Human emotions are the same. Yep. And I think I have a fairly good idea of the feelings behind this man's actions.
What gives away the motive for Constable Beat's unthinkable actions?
Warrant card.
Take that!
I realize that I'm a foreigner in this land, and I've only just arrived from Japan, which is why all this information about London's so-called bobbies is completely new to me. I've learned that, though honorable, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world, for example.
Keeping the peace, looking after the citizens on his beat in all kinds of ways. There's no doubt that the young Bobby is charged with a great deal to do each day, certainly.
But for Constable Beat, the day in question was special.
Special? How?
On account of this bouquet, my lord.
Oh, yes. It was our very first wedding anniversary.
He sees it now. Constable Beat had worked so hard to be able to afford this simple gift for his wife, and was looking forward to taking her out for a celebratory meal, when he and Mrs. Beat stumbled upon a crime along Briar Road. Yep. When he saw that shadowy figure through the fog collapse... Oh, I don't know who's talking. I'm gonna assume it's Naruhodo. When he saw that shadowy figure through the fog collapse on the pavement ahead of them, what must have gone through the man's mind?
But sir, just on that one particular day, I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Mrs. Beat puts up with a lot being married to a Bobby like me. I wanted to show my dear wife how much I care.
This is the warrant card that Constable Beat offered to lend to me earlier. Inside, among the rules for patrolling policemen, it says, when a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives.
Oh!
Constable Beat. Is that, or is that not, the reason why you moved the whole scene of the crime that day?
Yes. Everything you said, it's all right.
So that's it. It was all to do with the boundary of your beats.
Oh!
Exactly. To summarize, the incident actually occurred on Constable Beat's beat.
Good gracious! Constable, do you realize the gravity of what you have done?
It was the first time since I became a copper that I'd ever cursed God. Stay close to me, Pat. The criminal could still be lurking somewhere. As we ran over to the scene, I had every intention of doing my duty as a police officer. We've got to report this to the station as quickly as possible. But then it dawned on me. I realized where we were, where the victim was lying, and what that meant for me. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Why here? Why did this have to happen here? And why tonight of all nights? Why? It's a copper's job to guard the scene of the crime, so I told Pat she'd have to go to the nearest police box and fetch whoever was on duty there. It was then, when I opened my mouth to speak, it just came out. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of my own mouth. This is the next beat to mine, Pat. So you'll have to go to the police box that covers it. Turn right along Meerstrom Street and then...
And then... I'm sorry, Raleigh. Oh. I feel bad. Because it's not like he did anything... I mean, he did something wrong. If only he just came out about it. Oh, I don't know. It's one of those moments where I feel bad for the person who did something wrong, but at the same time, he did something wrong.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Oh, Constable.
I just wanted, just that one night, to take my Patricia out for dinner.
Oh, Raleigh.
Just that one night.
You knew that if the incident was on your beat, your evening of celebration would be ruined. And so you decided to move the entire crime scene outside your jurisdiction. Just across the street to the East Pavement of Briar Road, which falls under the neighboring beat's care.
You see, I thought, well, I was sure the victim was dead, you see.
I beg your pardon?
Oh, of course he did. Otherwise, my Raleigh would never have left the poor woman on the freezing cold pavement.
I mean, that is a fair point.
Oh, I see your meaning now.
But God got me back from my sins, didn't he? That's why. That's why I missed the rose I bought for Pat.
Oh no, Raleigh, that was all my fault. I should never have dropped it in such a dark place. I'm so sorry, Raleigh.
And can you tell us, Constable? How many books did you move from the one side of the road to the other in total?
Oh, 4 it was. Yes, sir. Definitely 4.
3 of them dropped by Mr. Natsume, and the 4th being the one that fell from the window upstairs in the Garrett household, of course. But what made you place that book in the victim's hand? When all the others were scattered haphazardly around, I mean.
Oh, well, sir. That's because that's how I found it.
How you found it? What do you mean?
When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So, when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand.
You're sure it was this book, The Lion's Pride, that the victim was holding?
Oh yes, sir. No doubt about it, sir.
Interesting. 4th book's information has been updated in the court record.
that was in the victim's hand when Mrs. Beat first ran over to see what had happened. Yeah, and that's what happened. Although that still comes back to the whole point of Soseki still not knocked into her. But I'm sure that she was walking down the pavement. The book fell out of the sky, hitting the window straight down. She saw that it was burning and was interested and picked it up. And as she was bending down to pick up the book, the knife that fell out of the Mr. and Mrs. Garradep's home from the window fell down and stabbed her in the back. But still, Soseki... But yeah, Mrs. Beat still saw someone run into her. I don't know. We'll see.
I thought it was an open and shut case at the time, you see. There were only the two people at the scene, and Pat and me both saw it happen. However, which way you looked at it, it had to be the fellow who ran off whodunit. I thought. I couldn't see the harm, really. I didn't think moving it all over the road would make a jot of difference. I suppose this is it for me now. I've had it.
My lord.
Yes, Lord Van Zeeks?
I believe that concludes the cross-examination of the witnesses. Constable, you may withdraw.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Prosecutor, sir? What will become of my Raleigh? What will happen to him?
For now, you are free to go home. The police will contact you in due course.
Please, don't punish my husband. This was all my fault. It's because I'm always moaning at him for coming home late.
Leave it now, Pat. Let's go home. I'm tired.
All right then, my love.
One last thing, Constable.
Sir?
Let this be a lesson to you. In a criminal investigation, every detail matters, however insignificant it may seem to you.
Yes, sir.
Carve that lesson in your mind. And never again make the mistake of tampering with the scene of a crime.
Never again, sir. You mean to say?
Leave now. This trial is not yet over.
Sir!
I hope that he gets a second chance, because I understand why he did it. It's wrong that he did it, but I understand why he did it, and
Well, quite a startling revelation, I must say. Whoever thought of a third party transplanting the entire scene of a crime like that?
and he's going to make the point of it doesn't change anything. Indeed, my lord. Nevertheless, there are some immutable facts here. Principally, that the accused, Mr. Soseki Natsume, is the only person who could possibly have committed this crime.
Objection!
No, I disagree. Now that we know the true scene of the incident, there is someone else. Another person who could be responsible for the knife in the victim's back.
Forgive me for being presumptuous, but I believe the prosecution is probably well aware of this possibility already.
Lord Van Zeeks, is this true?
Very well. Name the person if you will, and if further investigation is warranted. The prosecution has no objection to the trial continuing.
You will name this other person who could have perpetuated the crime.
It was Joanne Garadeb, although she didn't do it on purpose.
Take that!
The defense would once again like to request the cross-examination of a new witness, my lord.
Once again?
My assistant made the same request earlier. In order to finally reveal the truth about this case, it's imperative that we cross-examine juror number 4, Mrs. Joanne Garadeb.
Me? Oh, dearie me!
Objection!
That request has already been denied.
Objection!
But the situation is very different now. Mrs. Garadeb, answer me this.
What do you want now, you little toad?
At the time of the incident, you were engaged in a violent argument with your husband, Mr. John Garadeb. In the course of the argument, a minor house fire was ignited. And to clear the smoke from the room, your husband opened a window that looks out over Briar Road.
Well, what of it?
You threw this book at your husband when he was cornered with his back against the window. Upon striking the pane of the open-top hinged casement window, the book plummeted directly down, finding its way to what we now know to be the true scene of the incident.
Yes, and as I said, what of it?
During the argument, you were beside yourself with rage. As such, you threw not just books, but anything you could lay your hands on. So, let me ask you one more time, Mrs. Garadeb. This knife, the one removed from the victim's back, have you really never laid eyes on it before?
Oh! I don't recall it.
Seriously?
Am I supposed to remember everything I picked up and threw at my husband? And anyway, the man over there in all that regalia said members of the jury needed to testify, didn't he?
Conveniently, yes.
Objection!
No! I have no recollection of saying that at all, juror number 4. Oh! Make no mistake, you jurors are not special in any way. You are not immune to the judicial process. If you know something about this knife, madam, let the truth come out. But that's the commoner garden knife. It could have come from anywhere. We have several like that at home. If one went missing, how would you expect me to know?
Because you're the maid?
What's that? Are you joking?
What are you saying, please, Mrs. Garadeb?
No, you listen to me. I refuse to believe all this nonsense. I couldn't bear the thought that I'd injured someone. Do you hear? I couldn't bear it.
Oh, the poor woman.
So, yes, I want evidence. I want to see hard evidence if you're going to insist on this being my fault. You're going to have to prove to me that I threw that knife if that's what you think. Come along now, pop pop. Do your worst.
Well.
Oh, geez. A little more water. I hate her voice. Okay, here's the thing. I actually like doing her voice, but it is such a problem on my throat.
If I had evidence like that, believe me, I would have thrown it at her already.
Then take the stand, juror. Oh! The prosecution does not object to the defense's request to cross-examine this woman.
Thank you, Lord Van Zeeks.
I going to have to testify?
Juror number 4. As I'm sure you will appreciate, having observed it with your own eyes today. Witness testimony can lead to the most extraordinary truths being unearthed. Truths of which the witnesses themselves may not even have been aware.
Oh, dearie me.
So I demand your full and unadulterated testimony, Mrs. Garrideb. And mark my words, in this court of law today, we shall extract the truth. Do you concur, counsels?
Certainly, my lord. Oh, that's what I'm hoping for, my lord. This is such a strange feeling. For the first time since arriving in this country, it actually feels real. I'm here, in the Old Bailey, and I'm a lawyer. Maybe this is the end of this episode then, actually. Witness, state your name and occupation.
I'm actually going to look that up real quick, because if I can finish this episode right now, I might as well go ahead. History. Nope, never mind, I have to look it up. The Great Episode 4 walkthrough. Investigation Part 1, Investigation Part 2, Trial Part 1, Trial Part 2. Oh, that's it. So all that's left for this episode right now is just this trial. So actually, I'll play this until I get to the end of this trial, and then I'll move on to something else. But if I can just get done with episode 4 and be able to like upload it to YouTube and all that'd be really cool.
Oh, yes. My name is Joanne Garrideb. And I'm a juror and such like. It sounds like even she doesn't know if she's a housewife or a maid or what anymore.
The court has decided your testimony is required in order to clarify matters in this case. Do you understand, madam?
Yes, my lord. You will tell the court everything that took place in your household on the evening in question. And I warn you, do not attempt to hide the truth. Oh dear indeed.
Chin up, Joannie. Nothing to worry about. Now.
Oh, I didn't know you were here, John.
Wasn't only you in the room that day, old thing, was it? Well, I think I have to testify as well, don't you?
But what about your knee, dear?
Don't you worry about that. Hardly notice it. I'm not the sort of chap to leave a comrade to face disciplinary action alone.
Oh, John.
I presume you are Mr. John Garrideb. Yes, sir. Former second lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment of the 4th of the 3rd Regiment of the 4th Northumberland Fusiliers, sir. Seen my fair share of action and now living the quiet life as it were.
The quiet life? Were you not engaged in an incendiary battle with your spouse on the day in question?
Well, yes. Quite. I believe this may represent a first in the proud history of the British court. Calling a juror to the witness stand is unprecedented. However, the court will hear your testimony now, juror number 4, and that of your husband. You will recount clearly and concisely the events in your home at the time of the incident in question. Sir, at once.
I'm kind of trying to change his voice so then it's not as close to the judge's voice, but also I'm trying to keep it to what it was before, although I didn't really listen to it before, so, nah.
The Battle of Garadeb.
Yes, on the day you're referring to, the wife and I did have a bit of a skirmish. Can't recall the reason now. Knocked a candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon headed out though and got the window open.
Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him.
Plenty of knives around out this. Can't say I noticed if one or two went missing, I'm afraid. If that bally thing in the victim's back really was one of ours, you'll have a job proving it, I think. It sounds as though it was quite the battlefield in your household that evening.
Although an entirely one-sided assault, it seems.
The enemy caught us on the hop, sir. I had no choice but to dig in and take defensive measures. To be honest, if the enemy had kept shelling us for another minute, we'd have been toast. Of course, a veteran such as myself is only too aware that on every battlefield, you're just a knot's whisker from death at any moment.
Are we still talking about a marital quarrel here?
Well, I must say I'm dubious that this testimony will shed any light on the origins of this jackknife.
In combat, one's focus narrows such that surroundings are barely noticed. These witnesses may not be able to offer anything more than they have testified already. This may be a dead end. Van Zeeks may well be right.
Well, whatever the chances, we only have this last cross-examination to uncover the truth, Mr. Naruhodo.
Yes, I'm afraid so.
Very well, counsel. Begin your cross-examination.
Almost done, and then I can maybe move on to another game or something. Battle of Garadeb. Whew. Also, it's really hot in here right now. I wish I could bring the fan in here, but then it'll blow on the mic, and then it'll cause a bit of a problem. So.
Hold it!
The reason is what you told us yesterday, I believe.
Yes, that's right. If I remember correctly, it all started because of a note that was tucked into the pages of a book belonging to Mr. Garadeb.
A rather passionate note, in fact. But Mrs. Garadeb found the note, discovering her husband's little secret.
And she gave him a mighty number of slaps across the face for it, too.
What a sordid state of affairs.
Hell on earth.
I say, when a chump says he can't recall such things, it's common decency not to drag it all up. And besides, Hoverwit was wide of the mark anyway.
Likely story. These waters went very deep.
And what transpired next, after these multiple blows to the face?
Oh, jeez. Knocked the candlestick over and set fire to the carpet.
Soon had it all, though I got the window.
Hold it!
And the fire also spread to some items of furniture, didn't it?
The bookcase, my armchair, anything of mine, really. Just so happened there was some bathwater around that evening, so I sloshed it about to put it out. A most precarious situation you put yourself in. Ours was a 3-story townhouse on the west side of the street, where the water main isn't connected yet. Have to draw water from a public water pump during the day if you need any, you see.
The lodgers are always moaning that they can't get any water at night. Although, that little mustache Japanese man buys water in bottles, I believe. The defendant, Mr. Natsume, you mean? Yes, he receives a stipend for his studies, you know, from his home country. Can you imagine being able to brew a pot of tea at all hours? He's obviously very well off. Have you actually seen the state of the man? I believe he uses all of his income to buy books.
Well, anyway, the point is, I was able to douse the fire with water, fortunately enough.
Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw.
Hold it!
Even though the room was on fire? As far as I was concerned at the time, it was more important to extinguish my anger than the flames. When a woman wants to throw, she must throw.
That is most certainly not true of a Susato takedown, Mr. Naruhodo. How did she know I was thinking that? So, please cast your mind back and try to remember.
Oh, jeez.
Was the knife among the items that you threw at your husband that day?
In all honesty, I don't recall. But I feel I must point out that I'm no monster. Let me see. Some bread, a cabbage, garlic, a towel, and a sponge, a napkin.
By Jupiter.
Excuse me.
Do you have something to add, sir? Mr. Garadeb!
Hey, don't shoot! Sorry, I beg your pardon?
Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind?
Nothing of any significance, no. Just that the barrage of projectiles the old thing launched in my direction was somewhat more solid than she implies. Books, bricks, and the fire poker I seem to recall.
Ouch!
And the woman's aim is uncanny. She landed a direct hit with every ball and car. Good grief, woman. We're not at home now. This is a court of law.
Oh, dear me. I'm so sorry, dear.
What's she even doing with a teapot in here?
Honestly, John, I would never have thrown such things at you, obviously.
Well, take a look at this then. How do you suppose that happened, Your pipe, sir? I'm messing up the voices, shit. Put this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean out with one of her soft projectiles, she did. Yes. And when I went to pick the thing up, it was broken in two. I'd like to see a sponge do that sort of damage.
I see. Your pipe was broken.
It would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Anyway, I've managed to bandage the thing up for now.
You are one to exaggerate, aren't you, dear?
I wonder what we should make of this account. It could be important. The defense believes Mr. Garrett's remarks just now to be of great significance.
Objection.
Oh, jeez. This war veteran's words only tell us one thing. Betray a fiery wife, and pipes, as well as hearts, may be broken. Sentimental wisdom, perhaps, but hardly worthy of adding to the formal testimony.
Indeed. Common sense, one might say.
Might one? In that case, would you at least permit us to examine the pipe, sir?
Well, I don't see why not.
Oh, dearie me. There you go again, trying to ingratiate yourself with a young lady.
Very well. The court will accept the gentleman's pipe as evidence.
Pipe has been entered into the court record. Mr. Garrett's pipe apparently fell to the floor during a domestic dispute he had with his wife and broke.
I hope I didn't speak out of turn, Mr. Naruhodo. I was just feeling rather disappointed for you that your request was turned down.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Thanks to Susato-san, we have some evidence to work with. We should examine it carefully.
Well, thank you for that. Rebuttal, Mr. Garrett. Now, if we could return to the crux of the matter. Nope, I'm going to the pipe.
It looks to be in a sorry state with that bandage around it, doesn't it? But for some reason, it feels slightly ominous to me. Like it's trying to shout out a warning. Probably because it's the same blue as Mr. Garrett's dressing gown. I suppose it must have considerable sentimental value to Mr. Garrett, given that he's gone to the trouble of repairing it like this. Either that, or he can't afford to replace it.
Aha! What is that? Oh, it's the knife!
Oh, something just twinkled inside the chamber of the pipe there. Yes, I saw it. Something's stuck in there, I think.
Let's turn it over and give it a shake.
What's this? It's a tiny fragment of metal. It looks like the tip of the blade or something.
The tip of a blade? Surely it couldn't be. Fragment of metal has been entered into a court record. This small piece of metal looks like it might be the tip of a knife blade. It was stuck inside the bowl of Mr. Garrett's pipe. Well, I'll be damned. Oh, let's see what this... There's a small nick out of the bowl here. Look, it appears to have been made relatively recently. And see how there are little scrapes and dents all over it? It's clearly a well-loved pipe. Yes, you're right. It seems to me recently that being well-loved goes hand in hand with getting some battle scars. This particular nick is catching my eye though, because it's clearly new. This is the tiny piece of metal we found in the chamber of Mr. Garrett's pipe.
It looks like the tip of a blade or something.
The tip of a blade?
Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo?
I don't really know. There's just something bothering me. I can't quite put my finger on what it is.
Perhaps in that case, it would be wise to examine some of the other pieces of evidence again.
Why is that word in this game? I feel like they specifically put that word in there. No, I did not mean that. Like, I know localization and all that, but still. Word is a little too close to something else.
Oh, look here, Mr. Naruhodo, just at the tip. A small piece of the blade appears to be missing.
Wait, part of it's missing? I could be wrong, but I just got a feeling. Remember this?
Ah, that's the tiny fragment of metal that we found inside Mr. Garrett's pipe.
Yes, and just maybe.
Oh my, it's a perfect fit.
Somehow, I just knew it. Yep.
What can you tell the court about the knife used to attack the victim? Lithium knives around our place. Can't say I noticed one or two went missing, I'm afraid.
And here's where we present.
Objection!
Mr. Garredeb, could I ask you to take a good look at this, please?
You can ask, but I can't see a bally thing.
You can't?
Used to call me Dead-Eye Deb back at the regiment, of course. But that was some time ago now. Even when I'm trying to enjoy a large print book by the fire these days. I struggle to tell a B from a D and a P from a Q, to be honest.
Oh, he does. Dear me, it's rather wearing being asked about every other letter and every other word. You must very dizzy. You must very dizzy. You must very dizzy. What is that? A tiny scrap of metal? Yes, almost certainly from the tip of a blade. And what may appear at first to be just a tiny scrap is in fact a crucial piece of evidence. Interesting. And where did the defense come by this evidence? It was lodged in the chamber of Mr. Garrett's pipe.
My pipe, you say? By Jove, I wonder how that got there. And what precisely does this fragment of metal signify, Counselor? Are you suggesting that it is some way related to the matter of the stabbing on Briarwood Road?
I keep saying wood. I am. What? When put together with another piece of evidence already in the court record, I believe this tiny fragment of metal will unravel the whole truth of this case, my lord.
You appear rather confident in that extraordinary statement, Counselor. Very well then, present the pertinent evidence to the court. What evidence, when paired with this fragment of metal, allegedly reveals the truth of this entire case?
Take that!
The jackknife. This is the knife that was found in the victim's back. If you look closely, you will see that there is a small piece at the tip of the blade that is missing. A common issue with the inferior blades sold at unsavory street markets. Criminals who use them regularly leave the tips lodged in their victims' bones.
And what of this particular knife?
No doubt its tip has suffered a similar fate, now languishing somewhere near the spine of the victim. No, that's not the case. The tip of this particular knife's blade is the very fragment of metal we discovered in the chamber of Mr. Garrett's pipe.
Oh! Ah! Good grief! Lord Van Zeeks! I don't believe it! A knife from the crime scene and this fragment of metal are a perfect match! Good golly gosh! Order! 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 Is this some sort of Eastern sorcery?
This is no magic, my lord. This is a miracle.
A miracle?
So Van Zeeks has figured it out, has he?
Counsel, explain this extraordinary coincidence at once.
Yes, my lord. The crucial point we have to ask ourselves here is when did the fragment of metal find its way inside Mr. Garrett's pipe? Something that was clarified for us in the most recent witness testimonies.
Had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean out with one of her soft projectiles, she did. Yes. It would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Oh, dearie me.
During the argument between these two that occurred just as the victim was on the pavement below, Mrs. Garrett had flung this knife at her husband. However, the knife missed Mr. Garrett, instead striking the pipe in his hand at the time, which caused the tip to break off, of course.
Good Lord!
Yes, and that is when the tiny tip of the blade found its way inside Mr. Garrett's pipe.
The chances of that are a million to one.
And yet there's no other credible explanation for how the tip of the blade ended up in your pipe. Then, after losing its tip, the knife ricocheted off the pipe and flew out of the open window.
Oh.
In short, this knife, which fell from the window of the Garrett's house, is the very same knife that struck the victim in the middle of the back on the street below. Oh gosh, oh dear, oh no! Ugh, my throat,
Objection.
my throat. Okay. I'm starting to feel the effects of my throat. I've been doing this for almost 2.5 hours. A full body theory, I'll give you that. A complex bouquet of seemingly trivial points, plausibly arranged to create an almost passable vintage. Allow me to toast my learned friend's Allow me to test my learned friend's characteristically Nipponese approach to bottling his argument. Sorry? But after all, it is just a theory.
A game theory. Thanks for watching.
Okay. The bottle, I fear, is corked. Because, you see... Oh, the leg! It's spoiled by an insurmountable inconsistency. An insurmountable... What?
Lord Van Zeeks, explain yourself. What is this inconsistency you claim to have identified?
An inconsistency of the simplest nature, my lord. The victim was found with the knife planted in the middle of her back. Yes, in her... Ah! That's right, you silly little man!
No two-handle thing. What are you getting so excited about?
Let us consider the basic facts of the case once more. The victim was walking along the pavement before being stabbed in the back and falling to the ground. If the knife that had struck her had fallen from above, it should have hit her in the head. There's no possible way it could have implanted itself into the victim's back. I don't like doing the screams because the mic is so close to my mouth, but whatever.
Order! Order!
Right, you see? That's exactly right. If the knife had fallen on her from above, it would have struck her on the top of her head. Well, and this is the part where I go back to what I originally said, where she was bending over to pick up the book and then it stabbed her in the back. But all we would really need to do is wait for her to get out of her coma. And then ask her what she actually did. That is one thing that I don't understand. Why aren't we waiting until after she gets out of the hospital?
It's not for words, look.
I knew it. I never liked this theory in the first place.
I don't know, though. What really did happen?
It would appear the defense has made rather a spectacular blunder.
If a theory has even one inconsistency, it cannot stand. Your theory, my learned friend, is history. We were so close. I could see the truth. I was so sure we were on the right track. But now the way has been blocked completely by just one simple inconsistency. Or in other words, we simply need to eliminate that one inconsistency and the theory will stand. But Mr. Sato, you mustn't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. You were just caught off guard, that's all, and your mind went blank. But if the path you were on is indeed correct, then a way will present itself. The key to this is in the court record, I'm sure. All the information you need is there. It seems you have nothing to say, my Nibonese friend. Well, your silence speaks volumes. A tacit acceptance that your theory is fatally flawed.
Objection!
Objection! Objection! This inconsistency doesn't mean I was on the wrong track. It means that I need to sharpen my mind and dig deeper for the truth. It's a test! Yes! If the knife fell on the victim from above, there's no way that it could have hit her in the middle of her back. Under normal circumstances, that is. What are you implying?
Counselor?
There is a piece of evidence in the court record that can... Oh, jeez. That can explain this inconsistency. That can explain how the knife that fell from above could have pierced the victim's back. We already have the answer. Goodness!
Utter madness! Surely this must be the last time. Counsel, present the evidence of which you speak.
It's the book. This is the last inconsistency, the final piece in the puzzle. If I can successfully make sense of this, the truth will be laid bare at last. The evidence that explains how the falling knife became lodged in the victim's back is the fourth book.
Take that!
This, the fourth book found at the scene. This is the final piece of evidence the defense will present. The burnt book?
Is that not Mr. Garadev's book?
Yes, and to understand its significance, we have to consider how it came to be at the scene in the first place. This photographic print clearly shows the book in question, and the victim holding it in her hand. But as we all now know, it was the police constable that put the book between her fingers like that.
Quite so. As part of his wholesale transplanting of the crime scene to the opposite side of the road.
That's true, however, as part of his testimony, Constable Beep made an extremely enlightening statement at that point. On that point. But what made you place that book in the victim's hand? Yeah, I get to do Raleigh's voice again.
Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it. When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So, when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand.
In other words, the victim had already picked up the book up of her own volition. And clearly, that must have been before she suffered the knife wound.
Well, I should say so. After being attacked with a knife, I don't imagine she'd have been doing much of anything.
So the question becomes, why did the victim have the book in her hand?
By jingo! I think I'm beginning to see what may have happened now.
Oh, dearie me! We know that the book fell from the top floor of the Garadeb household onto the pavement below. At precisely the moment that the victim was walking past. Yes, at exactly that moment. The young woman was walking along the street in the light fog, when all of a sudden, a book fell right in front of her. The book I threw! Yes, Mrs. Garadeb. And what do you think the woman did? What would you do if you were walking along and suddenly a book landed in front of you on the pavement? Especially a burning book. Well, I really can't imagine it, but I suppose she might have reached down and picked the book up. Yes, that is exactly what the woman in fact did. She picked up the book. Oh heavens! And when the woman reached down and picked the fallen book up, what position would her back have been in? That's right, facing the sky, completely and utterly defenseless. Then, in the very next moment, while the woman was still bent over picking up the book, the next object fell from the room above, the jackknife, straight into the middle of her back.
Sorry for stopping real quick. I had to take a drink.
And at that same time, walking by chance directly behind Miss Green, was the defendant, Mr. Suseki Natsume.
Well, I never.
It appeared to Mr. Natsume that the woman simply collapsed on the floor. In the dark and the fog, he didn't see the knife falling on her from above. Oh! And from the other direction, the constable and his wife saw no one but the victim and her apparent attacker.
So there never was a real culprit to the run from the scene in the first place.
No, this was nothing more than a series of unlikely events that culminated in an unfortunate accident. And that is the real truth behind this case. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb? The very first time you showed me that knife, I had my suspicions. I wondered if perhaps it might have been something like that.
There, old bean.
Poor Mrs. Garadeb. Of course, I never meant for anything of the sort to happen, but it was all my fault, wasn't it? I take full responsibility. I let my anger get the better of me. I threw that book, and I threw the knife as well. John, dear,
Hi, Big Pop. No, I'm almost done, okay? I'm almost done.
It's alright, I know.
I'm ever so sorry. Truly. I'm sorry.
No, go. Go, Fred. Go, go, go.
Lord Van Zeeks, what news of Mrs. Gerdap?
She's been taken to the infirmary. It would appear that today's events had left her in an especially flustered state. However, I believe she will recover in due course. There is no cause for concern.
Yes, unbeknownst to it themselves, they caused what could have easily have been a terrible tragedy. They shall have to prepare themselves for the consequences of their actions.
There is some good news, however, my lord. I have just had word from the hospital where the victim is being treated. Her condition is improving steadily, and the doctor believes she will regain consciousness soon.
It's strange. We've been talking about the victim all this time, but we've never once met her.
How wonderful! The woman is out of danger, it seems.
Yes, that is good news.
So, Mr. Soseki Natsume. Yes. On behalf of my fellow countrymen, I would like to take this opportunity to beg your pardon, sir. You came from your distant eastern homeland to study our great British culture, and have been repaired with immeasurable unkindness. Please accept our heartfelt apologies. No, it is me who should be begging your pardon.
Oh no, Mr. Natsume.
That evening, when the young woman just collapsed on the pavement before my eyes, I jumped to the wrong conclusion again in my confusion. What conclusion, sir? I was sure that the woman was dead.
Yes, Constable Beat said the same thing, didn't he? He thought she had been killed too.
I suppose she must have looked completely lifeless.
It's been about a year since I arrived in Great Britain now, but I still can't get used to life here. I can't relax. I'm sure there are evil spirits looking in the fog, like they're haunting me.
Poor Soseki-san. His imagination really has got the better of him.
Yes, poor man.
So when it happened, I thought the young woman had been taken by the fog spirits. I should never have dropped my books like that and ran away. I should have called for help, for a doctor, for the police. Instead, I managed to create a rift in the relationship of trust between our two empires. And for that, I am truly sorry. One could indeed say that some of a sort of mischievous spirit has been at work here, I think. One that created a chain of unfortunate mishaps. We were befooled by the spirit and led to false conclusions. But thanks to Lord Van Zeeks and our young lawyer here from the east, that chain has now been broken and the spirit exorcised. I heartily commend you both.
Oh!
Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Yes, my lord.
In concluding this trial, I must ask one last time for your decisions regarding the defendant's culpability. Are you ready to present your findings to the court?
As the foreman of this jury, I can assure you we've reached a fair and just conclusion.
I do declare the truth can be extremely cruel at times. Well, I didn't suspect the woman next to me, that's for sure.
Sitting in front of the old bean while she's out to action, you know. But I know what her decision would be.
Does this mean I'll finally be able to get out of here and start work? Well, it's about time.
I say, I'll have a corker of a story to tell the grandchildren when I get home, won't I?
I've really enjoyed doing all these characters' voices, I will say.
Very well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I hereby demand your final decision. Mr. Foreman.
Not guilty.
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 And we are done with this episode for the most part.
Very well, Mr. Suseki Natsume. I hereby pronounce you not guilty.
Why are there fireworks inside? I don't know.
And finally, Mr. Natsume. Oh, yes, Lord Sir. You are now a free man once more. It is my hope that you will continue to further your education in British culture. And may you never again be brought before me. Oh yes, of course. On my life, I swear I'll never set foot in a courtroom again. I'm transported to tears.
Oh, jeez.
Thank you, counsels. Court is adjourned.
Okay. So it's 9 o'clock right now. Okay. 20th February, 3:17 p.m. The Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber.
Oh, locum.
Wait, you mean me?
Of course. Is there another locum here?
Is there even one?
Compared to the original locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, your name has become rather short, hasn't it?
What's wrong with using my actual name?
Oh, at last! I'm free! I'm free!
Oh,
Oh, joyful, joyous, jubilation. Hearty, hearty, happiness, hurrah!
Oh, I am pleased! Mr. Natsume is delighted!
would it be so hard to just say that then?
Locum, you did it! You saved me from the brink!
Well, what happened to the poor woman was in no way your fault after all. I'm just glad everyone can see that now.
No, not that! Lovely, loyal, locum lawyer!
Yes?
I mean, as I said before, I have just never got used to life here in Great Britain. Every time I looked over my shoulder, I see foreigners. I see towering brick buildings. And from high up windows, I see them looking down on me laughing. Look at that little hunchback.
Oh dear. I'm sure it's all in your head, Mr. Natsume.
But today, you locum lawyer gave my gloom the boot. You stood firm. You stood firm behind that baronial bench before all those babbling British. You battled to the bitter end, laying bare the baffling truth.
Yes, I know, thank you.
And when I beheld the blinding fireworks among the beams of the Bailey's roof, I bellowed, "Behold the best barrister ever born!"
Well, that's very flattering, and we're very pleased for you.
This has given me a wonderful anecdote to recount to my old friends back in Japan.
An anecdote? Is that what's become... Oh, jeez. Is that what's to become of all my hard work?
Oh, there you are, my dear fellows. I apologize for keeping you waiting. I rose late this morning.
Oh, Mr. Sholmes! What a pleasure to see you!
I see I am here not a moment too soon. A disaster has been averted, I'm glad to say.
Oh?
The trial shall begin presently, Mr. Naruhodo, and I wish you the very best of luck.
It's just finished.
What? No! Then my haste was in vain?
Oh, it's you. Her Airlock Jones. Airlock Jones.
Oh, have we met, sir?
This is Mr. Natsume, the man you had arrested, Mr. Sholmes.
Ah, I see. I failed to recognize you at first. Our previous encounters have taken place in the gloom, either of your bleak lodgings or that prison cell. I simply couldn't place that curious face in the light.
Charming.
This is all your fault, Airlock Jones. You're the reason I had to go through this terrible ordeal. I'm going to give you a piece of my mind.
My apologies, sir, but I assure you, I have placed you now. You're the fellow who abandoned that poor young lady and ran off, are you not?
Oh,
Had she been taken to the hospital more urgently, I feel perhaps she would have regained consciousness by now.
oh,
But it was unavoidable, I'm sure. We are but human after all. Anyone would have been shaken by such an experience.
I do feel very badly about how I behaved.
Well, never mind. Now then, what was it that you wanted to say to me, sir?
Nothing.
Priceless. Oh, I am sorry, really, but that was quite priceless.
Poor Soseki-san.
Still, on the bright side, you've had an extremely entertaining experience without paying a penny. And it would seem you were not even found guilty.
But there is no bright side.
Whatever do you mean, Mr. Natsume?
Even after this, I'm still cursed by the spirits and now by the Reaper.
Ah, Lord Van Zeeks. Why does it keep saying Soseki? Oh, wait, because that... I'm getting the names confused now. Whoops. Susato, Soseki. My bad.
I haven't forgotten, you know, what facing that man in court means. Even if you're found not guilty, you're still doomed.
It will all be alright, Mr. Natsume. If the Reaper appears trying to make trouble, I will protect you. Hi-ya! With a perfectly executed Susato takedown.
Much as I like being turned on my head, a bit of warning might be nice next time, Miss Susato. Again, apologies if I'm breaking people's ears. I did turn down the mic a little bit, so hopefully that helps, but there are a lot of loud points. So, Mr. Natsume, what do you intend to do now? You mentioned something about recounting your experiences to your friends back in Japan.
Yes, I intend to return to my homeland soon.
Oh,
It has already been a year since I arrived here in Great Britain. I've visited universities, libraries, bookshops. I've been honored with the tutelage of professors. I've learned so much about the worth of literature here and the city it has shaped. And I've come to realize that it is my calling to sail home and tell my fellow countrymen about it.
that's very touching, Mr. Natsume.
Or, in perhaps less veiled terms, you wish to withdraw halfway around the world to escape the terror of the Reaper's curse.
That's not it at all! The more I learn of literature, the more this strange feeling grows in my insides. I feel compelled to return to my roots and attempt to pen a work of my own.
Oh, I see. A work of literature by Soseki-san. Could be an interesting read.
And what about Miss Sato and yourself, Mr. Naruhodo?
Sorry? What about us?
Will you return to Japan alongside your mustache compatriot?
Why would we? A week has not yet passed since we arrived in London. And only now does it feel as though we have finally found our feet.
And you are accommodated in a hotel at present, are you not?
That's right, but we need to find lodgings before it bankrupts us. I've calculated we can only afford another 10 nights before our entire budget is exhausted.
Well then, you can take my lodgings.
Oh, the windowless room?
But what it lacks in windows, it more than makes up for with the floor, ceiling, and walls.
Great.
And of course, I'd be happy to leave behind the accursed evil spirit.
Oh my, an evil spirit?
Oh yes. It tries to suffocate you while you sleep. Yes, it's an infallible wake-up call.
We'll think about it if that's all right.
Perhaps I can offer a more welcome alternative. Would you consider taking lodgings with me?
Really?
Well, a vacancy has conveniently presented itself. Though it is up in the attic, I might add.
Are you sure it isn't just a storage loft?
I spoke with the landlady this very morning on the matter of price, and I was just cleaning the room as we speak. You must come at once. I presume you have no luggage to speak of.
Oh, this is simply wonderful. What an honor to be invited to take lodgings in the great detective's office's attic. I'm too overcome for words.
So suggesting we look elsewhere is out then.
Then it's settled. I will prepare a welcome dinner this evening. Then you must come too, Mr. Natsume. I insist.
I don't know what to say, but thank you and yes.
Wonderful. Then I'll go and complete the paperwork for your formal release, Mr. Natsume. It shan't take long.
Somebody's happy.
Locum, I knew that you wouldn't let me down. I'm truly delighted to have met you here in London.
Likewise, Mr. Natsume. It's been a privilege meeting you too. It's a shame that we're going to have to say goodbye so soon.
Well, I've come to realize that I belong in Japan. But Locum, we'll meet again one day.
Yes, I'm sure. And hopefully by then, I'll be a successful lawyer.
Hopefully by then, I'll be a successful author.
Well, my dear fellow, our carriage appears to have arrived. Shall we go, Mr. Naruhodo?
Yes, Mr. Sholmes. Yes, Mr. Sholmes.
I've little doubt Mr. Natsume will be released in time for dinner this evening.
And so, with Soseki-san's innocence successfully established, we rode with Mr. Sholmes to what was to become our new home, 221B Baker Street. Pretty spacious, I would say, for an attic though. 20th of February, 4:41 p.m., the attic room. So this
is to be our new office, yes.
Our office? I rather like the sound of that.
Me too. It's simply wonderful, isn't it?
I hope you can see this, Kazuma. It's only a small step, but I'd like to think we're getting a little closer to your dream now.
So, my dear fellows, do you like the place?
Ooh. Ah, Mr. Sholmes. Yes, thank you so much.
It's a delightful room, Mr. Sholmes. I simply adore it.
Good, I'm pleased to hear it. Iris and I are delighted to welcome you.
Oh, God.
I hope everyone's hungry. It's nearly time for dinner. We'll eat as soon as Mr. Natsumi arrives. We have a lot to celebrate.
Iris, you must let me help you. Oh God, Iris is gonna destroy my voice.
Alright then, Susie. You can be in charge of the salad.
Splendid.
Okay, good. I don't have to do Iris too much.
So, Mr. Naruto, how does it feel to have your own office in the capital?
It's very exciting, actually. I can't help wondering what adventures await us.
Those were precisely my sentiments when I first established my office at these premises. Until I discovered the dark truth about the city of London, that is.
Sorry?
London is a glorious place full of wonder, opportunity, prosperity, and mirth. But the brightest of lights cast the darkest of shadows.
Shadows? What do you mean?
Well, I believe you're well aware of the murkiness that lies behind London's facade already. So once again, Mr. Naruhodo, welcome to London.
Of course, at the time, I had no idea of the significance of those words Mr. Sholmes so casually spoke. But it wasn't long before my turn came to lift the facade and see the true depth of the murk that lay behind it. And end. Yep. Landed in London, awarded.
Okay, so it's been 2 hours and about 45 minutes. So, episode 5, The Adventure of the Unspeakable Story. And that's what we'll do the next time I play this game, which might honestly be like next week. Just because I haven't played this game in so long and I meant to get back to it, but honestly, like I said before, having to do a fully focused story with all of the voice acting that goes into it, it was just such a big hurdle for me to do that I just kind of it kind of just didn't seem good to me at the time. And other games were coming out at the time as well, so I had places I could go to other than this game to do what I wanted to do, or to play games and like do other stuff. But I really love the Ace Attorney games, and I want to get through this game and get the story and all that. But because I started it on stream, I would feel bad if I didn't finish it on stream and have it like posted on YouTube and all that. So yeah, it also doesn't help that, especially at night, nowadays, I can't be as loud as I used to be. I do have sound padding that I can apply to the walls and try and lower some of the sound that happens, which I still need to experiment with and see if it works and all that, but that could potentially make it so I could do more voice acting stream kind of things in the future. Especially since I'm sure I'm being really loud right now. But either way, with all that being said, I'm gonna call it here for the Great Ace Attorney. I think what I might do is I might load up another game. A game that I can just kind of casually play. And go from there. I think to make it easier on myself though, I will end this stream just so then I can easily export this to like YouTube. And it all just be this. And then I will come back on stream to continue doing something else. Yeah, because I didn't end stream today. I had to end stream a couple days ago, but not today. So Rachel, I know that you're in chat. I'm sure you're just listening to this instead of watching it. So if you happen to be listening right now and you have like an idea of a game that you would want to see me play right now, let me know. Because I'm certainly open to suggestions of games to play. Otherwise, what could I do? I could do Hyrule Warriors. I could do Super Mario. I could do Mario Kart. I could do Pokemon Unite. Could do Mario Tennis. I mean, then again, I do have to get up kind of early tomorrow, so I don't necessarily want to be staying up too late doing stuff. And at some point tonight, I will have to go over to my mom's house to help with the pup. Okay, well, I guess, unless you have another thought of another game to play, Rachel, I think I will end stream here, start another stream, and I will go into Pokemon Unite. So, thank you everyone for watching. I will be right back. I'm just going to end stream to make it easy to export. And I'll see you in probably a good couple minutes. So, be back in a bit.